America has very bleak prospects in a post-globalized world. One of the interesting things about conservatives that I find very, very fascinating is their idealism with regards to the potential of America. Or I do believe the American continent, the country of America, the country that lies between Canada and and Mexico, has a lot of natural resources like oil and gas and like an abundance of a lot of water resources, all that stuff. The Mississippi River, for example. People tend to overestimate just how much of an impact we can do alone as a country, especially about immigrants. For the most part, a lot of the major tech developments that we have benefited from, especially post Cold War, has been the result of immigrants. Chinese immigrants, Indian immigrants, etc. Whites tend to be very, very underrepresented in these fields. And the fields that whites are represented in now are not fields that are very dynamic. They're like fields like medicine. When I say medicine, I'm not talking about medical research. I mean doctors, practicing doctors, practicing nurses. Those are the type of professions that whites get into. Or finance. American wealth, a lot of it is paper wealth. It's the country is worth this much because because of our natural resources and a massive military and the ideology we export, but we don't really produce anything, and our schools are extremely bad. Our students are not very proficient in math. A lot of people who are racist or white nationalists, they'll try to compare white test scores without minority test scores and saying if Americans were only like whites, they would be on par with Europeans. This is not true at all. Anyone who actually lives here knows it isn't true. They're comparing apples and oranges. Two different structures of education, two different ways of doing math, two different ways of interpreting math, and then what we call advanced math and intermediate math is different when compared to Europeans and Americans. Europeans tend to do algebra at earlier ages than Americans do and stuff. It's they're comparing apples to oranges. It simply isn't the case. I think that we're idealistic because we're idealistic because we perceive ourselves as if we were the country we were 40 years ago. Even during the 90s, there was a massive decline in American education. We don't, like I said, after NAFTA, we outsource our manufacturing. We don't produce anything anymore. So even if we didn't have education, we will at least have the production capacity in the factories up and running, and we'll be able to produce things. But we can't even do that anymore. I think that we are the centerpiece of the of the current global system, but a lot of our power comes from the fact that we're a centerpiece. It's like playing chess and you're the king. You're only important because if they take you out, the world order collapses. But the king by himself can't really do very much. That's how I view America. We're playing chess, and the piece we represent is the king. Our importance is vastly overblown. In chess, the queen is actually the most important piece. And I guess if we could call any piece the queen right now in the current world order is China. Although China has its own problems, it's aging rapidly. It has a massive male population, a surplus male population. So it's going to be difficult for them to maintain their demographics. But America has its own problems. We're internally unstable. We have the problem of free speech in the 21st century. Free speech is going to be a giant issue in the 21st century. Not because free speech is bad, but because so many bad actors exploit the freedom of speech. They exploit our lives, what are meant to protect like legitimate grievances, and they use it to further very, very nasty and unnecessary ends. Anyway, back to the main topic. I do not think America is as powerful as we project to be, especially as the younger generation comes up. The younger generation is far less intellectual, far less well-read, far less mathematically inclined than previous generations. And then what we perceive as being successful is not the same as previous generations. In previous generations, kids want to be astronauts and doctors. Now they want to be like policemen and firemen. Now they want to be social media stars. We have a culture of narcissism. And how we solve these problems is going to be very, very interesting to see how we solve these problems. These are legitimate problems. Our education system is a legitimate problem. Even if you go through high school and you learn algebra and calculus and stuff, you do not apply those things. If you do not apply those things, those are going to be useless skills that will grow weaker and weaker over time. Over time, you're going to forget how to do calculus and algebra, and you're going to become less proficient. Places like China, they have massive manufacturing sectors where people need to apply algebra, they need to measure things, they need to apply chemistry, they need to apply their sciences. We live in a country where we do not apply our sciences. And the math that we do use is mostly math that revolves around finance, using equations to measure like economic output and stuff, which can't be applied to anything else. At least with chemistry, you can apply. Chemists do not make much, but at least chemists can apply their profession to many, many things in life. They can measure and understand many, many things. But anyway, it will be interesting to see how this country progresses. That's my quick take.